Oh, hi. Sorry, just having a little bit of a smoke and doing a little light reading, as we like to say. Yeah, today we're going to talk about something that has nothing to do with the Evil Dead or Ashley J. Williams. What we're here to talk about is a little town in the Midwest called Haddonfield, Illinois, and the terror that befell that town on one fateful Halloween night in 1978. What we're going to do over the next coming weeks is we're going to go through the 5 different Halloween timelines, and we're going to start right now. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well out there. Yes, since Halloween Ends is coming out on October 14th, and this iteration of the Halloween timeline is coming to an end, I figured let's go back and go through all 5 Halloween timelines in this long-going franchise. But before we start that trip, like, comment, subscribe, join me here. Great, would appreciate that. First up, the first timeline, which we're going to discuss today, is the original John Carpenter 1978 classic, Halloween 2, the original one in 1981, Halloween H2O in 98. And unfortunately, I have to include it because technically it is on that timeline, even though it pains me to say it, the pimple in the ass of the franchise, Halloween Resurrection is included, although I hate to even say it, but we'll include it here for this timeline. Then we're going to discuss Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which is kind of that little island on the Halloween franchise. It's out here all by itself. And then the Thorn trilogy, Halloween 4, Halloween 5, Halloween 6. And then we'll have a video talking about Rob Zombie's Halloween reboot and then his H2. And then we'll talk about the original Halloween and David Gordon Green's trilogy when Halloween Ends drops. So these videos will be coming out over the next coming weeks. And the final one will come out after Halloween Ends drops, after I see that film and the conclusion of David Gordon Green's trilogy. Let's start this off with the 1978 classic John Carpenter movie. Yes, this is when Michael Myers was introduced to us. And the first timeline here, the original Part 2 and H2O, those 3 films, the timeline flows pretty good, except for Resurrection, which we'll get to because I don't like that film. It's not a very good film, but we'll talk about it because it's part of this timeline. It pains me to say. But we're introduced to Michael Myers being of Halloween as a little boy. He kills his sister. He gets sent to Smith's Grove Sanitarium. And then in 78, on Halloween Eve, he breaks out, much to the dismay of Dr. Loomis. And from then on, we're introduced to Laurie Strode, which would be our ultimate final girl of this series. No disrespect to Danielle Harris, because I love her, but Jamie Lee Curtis is our ultimate final girl of this series. And Michael Myers is stalking Laurie Strode in Haddonfield. Although in the first movie, we don't know that it's his sister. That doesn't come until the sequel, which Carpenter always said he didn't like that idea, even though he's the one who wrote it. And he feels like it took some of the supernatural element of Michael Myers away. But Michael kills some of Laurie's friends, and then Laurie has to fight him off, and Dr. Loomis shoots him off the balcony, and he disappears in that awesome last shot of Halloween, John Carpenter's immortal classic. Now, if you're a Halloween fan, you know John Carpenter had no plans to carry this on with a sequel. But with the popularity of Friday the 13th in 1980 making a lot of money, and other slasher films just coming out almost weekly, it seemed, because there's so many that came out in the 80s, the powers that be came back to Carpenter and Deborah Hill and said, please write us a sequel. John Carpenter didn't direct it, but he produced and wrote it and scored it with Alan Howarth. And Rick Rosenthal came in and directed, although Carpenter did direct some extra scenes after they were done filming to add blood and more gore to the film because the marketplace had changed. Everything had gotten more bloody and people expected a lot of blood. So he went back and added more blood scenes, more gore. Although I will say, in hindsight, my theory is Carpenter directed more than just a few gore scenes inserts, but he swears that's all he did. I don't know. I know he used the same crew, but I still say Carpenter probably directed more of Part 2 than we're led to believe. And that is a really great follow-up. And it was a nice way of doing it. It's just picking up right after the moments of the first film. Now, obviously, they reshot the scene with Loomis shooting Michael because in the original version, well, in Part 2, he shoots 7 times, not 6, because my buddy Rich will always point that out whenever we watch this movie together, Part 2 together. But it is a damn good sequel. I mean, the only problem is Laurie Strode is negated to a hospital bed for the whole entire runtime of the movie, except for the last 15 minutes of the film, long enough for her to fight Michael Myers off at the end, and Loomis blows him up in a spectacular final scene. But it's a pretty damn good slasher film. It's a good follow-up. It's not as good as the original. The element of surprise is already gone, and they throw in that storyline that Laurie is Michael's sister. That's why he's trying to kill her, that she was adopted by the Strodes after Michael was sent away, so he wasn't really aware of her all that much, although in the TV version of the original Halloween, you could see some scenes where Laurie was in the room with Michael. But Halloween 2 is a damn good follow-up. It's definitely a really good sequel to that original film. Not as good, but still a damn good sequel, and I love the way they did it with just picking up right at the moments after right at the end of the original film, and that's why they pick it up. And I love the new score by Carpenter now and Howarth. They just pump it up a little bit. It's a really good sequel, and I've always enjoyed it. Then we got to go forward from 81 to 98 when H2O came out. I just talked about H2O in a nice review. If you want to check that out, just check my Halloween playlist. You'll find it there, or just scroll on down. You'll see it on my page. Halloween H2O is a damn good sequel 20 years later. It was an anniversary film. Yes, Carpenter didn't come back. Hill didn't come back, but Jamie Lee Curtis came back. We get that awesome final scene, that awesome final moment where Laurie chops Michael's head off. And like I said, opening night I was there, and the place went nuts. And Laurie closed her eyes, holding the axe in her hands. The music comes up, although I don't like the score by John Ottman in this movie. It's definitely not a Halloween score at all. And I know they brought in somebody else to do some extra scores. The studio didn't even like Ottman's score. But it's a really fun, short movie to get straight to the point, and we get that awesome final act. And it's a damn good follow-up to Halloween 1 and 2. Although it doesn't connect as much to 2. It does. They do consider it after part 2, but Michael's not burned. He got blown up in the second one at the end, so he would have burns all over him. So they kind of negate some things, and they kind of retcon a few things. But still, it's a damn good follow-up, and those three movies together make a nice, good timeline. If they would have ended after H2O, which they should have, and ended Rob Zombie's reboot, because Resurrection, which we're going to talk about in a second, is a total dumpster fire. But it was a good concluding chapter to the Halloween franchise and the Laurie Strode character. Now, I know they brought her back in 2018, and I like that film a lot. We'll get to that timeline in October when Halloween Ends comes out. But this is a nice little trilogy of films from the Halloween franchise that really hold well together. If you watch them right in a row, they really flow nicely for the most part, except for some retconning they did in H2O from part 2. But overall, it's a really good trilogy. Now we got to talk about the pimple on the ass of that trilogy, and that's Resurrection. I don't even like to throw it in here, but I have to because it technically follows that timeline. Now, if you're a Halloween junkie like I am, you know Jamie Lee Curtis wanted H2O to be the final film for her character. But to get that film made, she had to sign on to show up if they decided to make another sequel. But her stipulation was wanted to be killed off right at the beginning of the film. She did not want to be in the whole movie. She wanted her storyline to end. And when they got done finishing H2O, the next day they shot that bullshit retcon with the EMT going in and checking Michael before anybody else does, getting his larynx crushed, and then Michael switches clothes with him, and he's the one that Laurie kills at the end of H2O. Total cop-out, total horseshit retconning. I hate it. It doesn't work on multiple levels. It's fucking lazy. But that's not the worst thing in this movie. I mean, it is a big FU to the ending of the H2O and the gloriousness of that ending. It definitely gives it the middle finger, but there's more fuck yous to come for the fans of this franchise. Namely Busta Rhymes, but also just a shitty movie. We kind of throw out all the rules about Michael they set up throughout the franchise about he's stalking family. He just wants to kill his family. Not in this one. Nope, he goes back to his house, and all of a sudden the Myers house has a bunch of caverns underneath it that Michael's hanging out in and living. And then we have this at the time it was considered it kind of was new at the time with the whole found footage thing of watching these people explore the house on Halloween night. It kind of was groundbreaking at the time, kind of. This is before the Paranormal Activities of the world and all those kind of films started coming out. But the film, besides having really shitty characters, and there's some actors here I like, but they're shitty characters. They're just, I don't know, they're not even real fully fleshed out characters, really. I mean, our main girl, she's okay, and I like that actress. She's fine. I've seen her in some TV shows, and Katie Sackhoff's somebody I always enjoy. Her character sucks here, though. They make her an annoying pain in the ass to even be around. And some of the guys are just worthless, honestly. And the mask isn't that great. I mean, it's a step up from Halloween H2O. That's not saying much. That mask is better than Halloween H2O. The way it's shot, the way it just plays out, and you got Busta Rhymes talking down to Michael Myers. You never make fun of your monster. You could have fun with the movie. You never make fun of your monster. Tom McLaughlin did it masterfully in Friday the 13th Part 6. This movie, you have Busta Rhymes just talking down to Michael. Michael turns around and walks away, doesn't even do anything. And then you got that famous scene of Busta Rhymes karate kicking fucking Michael Myers out of a window. And then you get the lines, trick or treat, motherfucker, and you're looking a little crispy there, Michael. Just a horror show of script writing, Why the fuck Busta Rhymes even in that movie is beyond. I know why they put him there, because bring in some box office dollars. But it just doesn't work. His character is awful. His dialogue is awful. And it's just a shit show of a movie that really pisses on the legacy of H2O and the first two films. But yeah, that is our first timeline in this franchise. These 4 films do connect, although you could push Resurrection to the side and piss on it, or throw it in a dumpster and set it on fire. But those first 3 films we talked about are really good together. You can watch all 3 of them. It flows really nicely, I said, except for some of the retconning H2O. But that is our first timeline we're going to talk about. The next one is just going to be a video about Halloween 3, because that's the one that's on its island by itself. And then we'll continue on through the rest of the franchise. But are you a fan of the Halloween franchise? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. What is your favorite Halloween film? Let me know down below. I'd be interested to see what your answers are. And what is your favorite of the first 4 movies in the timeline that we just spoke about? Leave that comment down below as well, too. I'll be back soon with the review for Return of the Living Dead, a little bit more zombie action before we go on to some other horror movies. Then you'll have the Halloween 3 Season of Witch video out within the next week or so, and we're going to do some more horror films because it's Halloween season, baby. Yes, it fucking is. So I hope you're all doing well out there, and until next time, bye.